I want you to think about the feeling that you get when you realize your pipeline is completely dry. It's 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. You're sitting at your desk, staring at a blank screen. You just wrapped a major client project, which is great. But now you have a terrifying realization. You have absolutely no idea where your next premium client is coming from. You know you need to generate new conversations, but the very thought of doing outbound outreach makes your stomach turn. You look at your own LinkedIn inbox, it's filled with automated copy and pasted garbage from strangers demanding 15 minutes of your time. They pitch you in every first message. They send calendar links before they've even gotten to know your real name. And you absolutely refuse to be that person. You refuse to compromise your premium brand and your reputation by becoming a spammer. So, what do? You do nothing. You tweak your website again. You write another thoughtful blog post and you sit there praying that a referral magically appears in your inbox before the end of the month. But hope isn't a pipeline strategy. Relying solely on referrals means you're a passenger in your own business. Your revenue is entirely dependent on whether or not someone else happens to remember your name at the exact moment a problem arises. I was working with a brilliant fractional CMO named Elena. She had completely stalled at around 120K in revenues. When I asked her about her outbound strategy, she completely cringed. Like she clammed up and she told me, Luis, I'm a senior executive. I'm not going to go out there and send cold DMs. That feels cheap and that's going to diminish my authority. She was absolutely right because the way that most people do outbound is cheap. But I showed her a different way. I showed her my methodology. And 30 days later, she had 6 alignment calls booked with ideal high ticket prospects. She never sent a single pitch or a link that was unsolicited. Today, think of this as a private advisory session between just you and me. I'm going to introduce you to the human interrupt method. It's the exact architecture that you need to generate premium leads without ever feeling like a hustle bro. Let's get to work, my friend. I'm Luis Baez. I've spent over 15 years in sales leadership and revenue enablement. I was recruited to work at major tech companies like LinkedIn and Google, Uber, Tesla, where I contributed to over 600 million in revenue impact. And now I work with management consultants, fractional executives, and boutique agency founders. I help them replace that exhaustion of hustle with systems that buy them oxygen and help them scale. What I'm about to share is the exact outbound architecture that we install inside the Booked Busy Paid Accelerator. This is how you take complete control of your revenue without sacrificing your reputation. We're not talking theory today, my friend. We're talking practice. We're breaking down the entire system. And I'm going to show you exactly how I do it and how my clients do it. If we were auditing your lead generation strategy right now, I'd probably see you stuck between two dangerous extremes. Extreme number one is the hustle protocol. This is the brute force method, buying a list of 10,000 emails, loading them into an automation tool, and blasting out a generic pitch. You might get a fraction of a percent to convert, but you completely burn your reputation with everyone else. That's not positioning. That's desperation, my friend. Premium buyers can smell automated desperation from a mile away. You're never going to get results that you deserve. Extreme number two is the passive trap. And so this is where most experts hide because it feels safe. You post thought leadership content once a week and wait for the market to come to you. You get a few likes, maybe a comment, but likes don't pay the mortgage. If you don't have a mechanism to turn passive audience attention into active pipeline, you're just running a very stressful, very expensive hobby. The experts who scale past $250,000 in revenue a year don't do either of those things. They don't wait for the whale and they don't throw a massive net hoping to catch 1,000 anchovies. They use a spear gun, they catch the whale, and they do it using the human interrupt method. It's a method that I teach in my programs, teach to my clients, and I implement in my own business. So grab a pen, activate that note taker, and let's get into it. Phase one of the human interrupt method is the demand signal targeting. So you've got to stop treating your total addressable market like a numbers game. When you reach out to a senior decision maker, they need to feel like you wrote that message specifically for them on that exact day for a highly specific reason. Elena was targeting B2B tech founders, and instead of reaching out to every founder in California, she filtered for a very specific demand signal. She looked for companies that had recently announced a Series A funding round, but hadn't yet hired a full-time marketing director. So she wasn't looking for 1,000 leads. She was looking for 50 perfect targets. And when you narrow your focus, based on real world trigger events like that, your confidence naturally rises because you know exactly why you belong in that inbox and you're no longer guessing. Phase two is the actual outreach. And this is the most important rule of the human interrupt method. Never quote a price in an outbound message, and never ever include a booking link in your first contact. When you ask a stranger for 15 minutes of their time, you're asking them to pay a tax. You've provided zero value or established any relevance, but you're demanding their most precious resource. Instead, I want you to lead with an unpitch. You name their exact problem and you offer a piece of your methodology as a gift. Elena's message looked a little bit like this. Hey, Sarah, I saw the news about your Series A round. Congratulations. I know that scaling from founder led marketing to a structured team is probably the most painful transition that a CEO will make. I recently built a demand signal architecture map for similar tech firms to cut their customer acquisition costs in half. I'd be happy to send the framework over if you think it would be helpful. Just give me a thumbs up and let me know. Think about that. Look at the psychology of a message like that. There's no pitch, there's no calendar link, right? We're just focused on the person, the problem, offering value, being very targeted with the message, right? She's not interrupting their day. She's sliding in with extreme relevance. Phase three is the transition. So when Elena offered that framework, a massive percentage of those CEOs replied and said, yes, please send that over. This is a critical psychological shift. They just gave her permission to enter their world. They made a micro commitment. Elena is no longer a cold outbound spammer. She's now an invited guest. She sent the resource, but she didn't stop there. The resource itself is designed to agitate the problem. So when the CEO reads the architecture map, they realize how complex the issue actually is, right? And the problem actually is. And then they realize that they don't have the internal team to execute it themselves. Phase four is where you finally make the ask. 2 days after sending that resource, Elena follows up. Hey, Sarah, I hope that the architecture map was helpful. Hey, real, most founders I share that with realize that their current tech stack can't actually support that kind of tracking. If you want a second set of eyes on how you might implement this for your team specifically, I'm happy to jump on a quick call this week. Right? She didn't ask for a call until she'd already proven the value. She earned the right to invite them and reciprocate that initial invitation to slide into that inbox. And because she already proved that she understands the exact pain point, that call doesn't feel like a sales pitch. It feels like a natural continuation of the conversation that she started and a natural extension of the value that she's already providing. Here's the bottom line, my friend. You hate outbound because you've only ever been taught to sell like a vendor. But when you use the human interrupt method, you're not selling, you're advising and consulting because that is what you do at the end of the day, right? You're stepping into the inbox of someone who's actively struggling and you're offering them a flashlight. You don't need to send 1,000 messages a day. You just need to send 20 of the right messages in any given week. And when you master this and do this on repeat and commit to it consistently and consistently doing it, you completely eliminate any anxiety about your pipeline because you know that whenever you want a new client, you don't have to wait for a referral. You don't have to hope that someone reads your blog post. You just turn the engine on because you are finally the architect of your own growth. If you're tired of relying on hope as a pipeline strategy and you want my eyes on your outbound architecture, then we need to have an alignment call. It's a conversation, not a pitch, just you and me looking at where you are, what's holding you back, and whether the booked, busy, paid accelerator makes sense for you. Go to bookedbusypaid.com and grab a time directly on my calendar. This is Unhustling, where we build slower, breathe deeper, and still get it all done on our own terms. I'm Luis Baez, and I'm in your corner.